Welcome to the Blanco Wellness Podcast.
Thank you for being here. Take a breath, settle in, and let's talk today about something that shapes your life more quietly and more consistently than almost anything else, and that most people never quite examine directly. Think about the people you spend the most time with, not abstractly, specifically. Now think about how you tend to feel after time with each of them. More energized or more depleted? More like yourself or slightly less? More hopeful about what is possible or more quietly doubtful? Most people, when they actually sit with this question honestly, find that the answers vary considerably from person to person, that some relationships leave them feeling more alive and more genuinely themselves, while others leave them feeling subtly smaller, as though something has been quietly taken without anyone quite meaning to take it. This is not a small thing. The people we spend the most time with shape what feels normal to us, what feels possible, what feels worth pursuing, not through dramatic interventions, but through the slow, continuous, largely invisible influence of shared assumptions and shared standards, and the kind of person it seems natural to be when you are in their company. We absorb, without deciding to, the worldview of those closest to us, their relationship with ambition and risk and difficulty, and what a life is for. And over time, those absorbed assumptions become indistinguishable from our own. The influence is not usually intentional. It is simply the way human beings, who are deeply social creatures, develop in relationship to their environment. A young man once asked an old teacher which book he should read to become wiser. The teacher smiled and said, "Show me your 5 closest friends, and I will tell you more about your future than any book could." The young man was disappointed. He had wanted a more complicated answer. Years later, he understood what the teacher was pointing toward. Not that the company we keep determines everything about us, but that it shapes the daily conditions in which we either grow or remain static, either move toward or away from the people we are genuinely trying to become. The influence is gradual and largely unconscious, which is precisely what makes it so significant. The Buddhist tradition has a specific term for this, Kalyana Mita, often translated as spiritual friendship or wise companionship. It was considered one of the most important conditions for genuine development, not a supplement to practice, but foundational to it. The recognition was not that the company we keep replaces our own effort and responsibility, but that sustained exposure to people who embody the qualities we are trying to cultivate makes those qualities feel genuinely possible and natural rather than merely theoretical. Conversely, sustained exposure to people who consistently model cynicism or stagnation, or the diminishment of genuine aspiration, tends to make those things feel normal too. Neither influence is dramatic, both are real. Think about what happens in the immediate aftermath of a conversation with someone who is genuinely alive to their own life, curious, honest, engaged with what they are building, interested in your perspective as well as their own. There is usually something that happens in the energy after such an exchange, a quality of possibility, of things feeling more open than they did before. Now compare that to a conversation that consisted primarily of complaint or comparison, or the particular flatness of people going through motions they have long stopped examining. The content might have been similar. The experience is entirely different. Something is transferred in both directions that is not quite captured in the words exchanged. The Taoists understood the shaping power of environment through a principle they applied to everything. Things take the shape of what surrounds them. A river is shaped by the landscape it flows through. A tree grows according to the soil, light, and space available to it. Everything in the natural world develops in response to conditions, which means that conditions matter, not as excuses, but as real influences on what becomes possible and what does not. Creating the right conditions for what you genuinely want to grow is not a passive act. It is one of the more practical and consequential things available to you. There is a dimension of this worth addressing directly, because it comes up for almost everyone who takes this question seriously. Growth changes relationships, not always, not in every case, but often enough that it deserves honest acknowledgement. As a person's priorities shift, their understanding of what is important deepens, or they begin moving in a direction that genuinely matters to them. Some relationships that once fit comfortably begin to feel different. Not because anyone has become a worse person, because people change, and not all change moves in the same direction at the same pace. And relationships that served one season of a life do not always serve the next. This does not require judgment of the people involved. It does not require dramatic endings or the abandonment of genuine care for people you have a real history with. But it does sometimes require honesty, the recognition that loyalty and self-abandonment are not the same thing, that you can love someone and still acknowledge that their consistent influence on your thinking and your sense of what is possible is not moving you in a direction you want to go. Some relationships deserve to be maintained with more distance. Some deserve genuine investment. The discernment between them is one of the quieter forms of wisdom available. The question worth carrying is not who is impressive or successful or useful to know in a professional sense. It is something more specific and more personal. Who helps you become more of who you actually want to be? Who makes you feel more like yourself? The genuine version, not the anxious or performed or diminished version, but the one that is alive and curious and engaged. Who tells you honest things when honesty is what you need? And who celebrates your growth without being threatened by it? Who stays when the chapter becomes genuinely difficult? These are the relationships worth protecting and investing in, because they are among the most significant conditions available for the life you are trying to build. As we close today, I want to leave you with a simple reflection. Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with right now. Not to judge any of them, but to honestly notice, after time with each of them, which direction do you tend to move? Closer to who you want to be, or further away? More energized or more depleted? More hopeful about what is possible, or more quietly resigned to what is not? The answers to those questions are worth taking seriously, because the people around you are shaping your future in ways that are far more significant and far more continuous than any single decision you will ever make. Thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, be well.